20,000 years ago, in the depths of Europe, Tao guided a band of hunters as they pursued their prey. His son Keda was alongside them. They quietly approached a herd of grazing bison, the beasts without a care in the world. Once close enough, Tao signaled the others to halt their advance. When they were ready, he yelled out. War cries filled the air as the hunters charged at the bison herd. Closing in, they threw spears to drive the herd towards a nearby cliff. The bison's momentum carried them over the edge. The survivors of the fall sensed the danger and turned to face their attackers. Suddenly, a massive bull bison charged at Keda, who had wandered too close. The beast gored him, launching him into the air. Tao rushed forward, his spear finding its mark, but the enraged bison kept charging, taking both to the cliff's edge, ultimately sending Keda tumbling into the abyss below. A week ago, at the hunter's camp, young folks gathered around the fire to craft spearheads for their upcoming hunt. After finishing, Tao and his right-hand man Sigma inspected the newly crafted weapons. When it came to Keda's turn, his spear was so sharp that it accidentally cut Tao's hand. Later, Tao ordered his men to punish both Kappa and Keda. It was part of their initiation. They needed to understand that pain was inherent in the hunt. However, Tao intervened when Nu, his wife, and Keda's mother showed up. After ensuring her son wasn't seriously hurt, Tao informed Keda that he would accompany him on the hunt as the chief's son. That evening, the initiates joined the shaman to receive the blood mark on their faces and partake in its ceremonial drink. The tribe's fire and prayers enveloped them. Later, Nu expressed her doubts to Tao about their son's readiness, but he reminded her of their need for him to survive. Despite her concerns, Nu believed Keda's strength lay in his heart rather than his physical prowess and feared for his safety. The following day, the hunters bid farewell to their families, aware they might not return. Nu gave Keda a coat, hoping it would offer him protection. Despite Keda's attempts to appear tough, Tao insisted he go back and embrace his mother tightly. With the shaman's blessing, the hunters set off on their tough journey. After crossing a waterfall, it gets dark. Tao gathers his crew to huddle around the fire he's made. Seeing Keda's curiosity, he hands him the stick he's been using, telling the boy to give it a shot. But no matter how hard he tries, Keda can't even make ashes. Tao reminds him survival takes patience and never giving up. The next morning, the hunters push on. They reach an old stone totem and stop as another crew from a different tribe shows up. Tension's thick until they realize it's She, an old buddy of Tao's. Tao introduces Keda, but She shares his own son's gone, passed on. Together, they touch the totem briefly, paying respects to their ancestors and asking for a safe trip. They move on, now dealing with mammoth-filled fields. Knowing mammoths travel in risky packs, they steer clear. To find sustenance, they catch a small boar, and Tao tells Keda to finish it off as part of his initiation. But Keda's too hesitant to take a life. Tao reminds him it's about survival, but ends up making the kill himself. Furious, Tao stresses only the strong survive, and it's something that must be earned. That night, as they eat, Keda's ashamed of his cowardice, avoiding eye contact. Suddenly, Tao quiets everyone as they realize they're being watched by a saber-toothed tiger. Fear grips Keda, but his dad reassures him. Not seeing any prey, Tao calls for a break, telling them to stay alert. Moments later, the tiger snatches Kappa, dragging him into the darkness of the forest. They just hear his screams as he's torn apart. Tao knows Kappa's loss hits his son hard, as he was Keda's friend. He reminds Keda that they must remain strong in difficult times. The next day, after setting up a cairn for Kappa, they press on. They reach another totem before entering a steamy forest, hacking through the thick greenery. Upon clearing it, they find themselves back in the open, journeying for days. One night, they reach the mountains and take shelter in a cave. They use it to leave marks of their journey on the walls and get some ink on their skin. Keda gets a star map tattoo to help him find his way. Spotting a wolf pack on the hills, Tao teaches Keda how to read the map. He points out the alpha, saying it must lead with strength and keep its cool, because others will challenge it if they sense fear. Tao tells Keda that being an alpha isn't something you're born into. It's about courage and heart. The next day, near the cave, they spot fresh bison droppings, indicating they're close. They gear up, layering their clothes and applying mud to hide their scent. They ready their arrows, and Tao gives the signal to move. Things start smoothly, but Keda slips and barely grabs hold of a ledge. Tao and the others rush over, but despite his dad's pleas, Keda loses his grip. He tumbles down, sustaining a few injuries before landing on a ledge below. Tao wants to go after him, but his crew stops him, saying it's too risky and that Keda is gone. As the leader, Tao has to stay strong and head back to their village. Below, the hunters went down to gather the meat from the fallen bison. Tao, however, refused to leave his son's side. High on the cliff, his desperate cries echoed, pleading with Keda's lifeless body to wake up. She and Sigma approached Tao, their farewell heavy. Sigma delivered the message that Keda was with their ancestors now, reunited in the spirit world. Night fell. Tao wouldn't let go of his son. Sigma came over, asking him to let Keda go. There was no choice. Keda showed no signs of life. The next day, with vultures circling above, Tao built a makeshift grave for his son. His grief overwhelmed him. The hunters marked the trail with ink and left. With no one left to scare them away, a vulture swooped down on Keda's body to feed. But as it pecked at him for the first time, the pain ended up rousing Keda, who was still alive. Writhing in pain, he realized he had a badly injured ankle. He called out for his father, but no one answered. Thirsty, he dragged himself to a puddle to drink, then set about trying to reset the dislocated joint. Though every step was agony, Keda made his way back up the cliff, only to find his tribe had already left, and a grave had been built in his honor. Angry, he angrily knocked the stones off the cliff. Exhausted, he heard the wolves nearby and knew he had to keep going. Taking shelter in a tree for the night, Keda had to eat worms to stave off hunger. In the morning, the wolf pack spotted him and advanced. Keda fought them off as best he could, eventually climbing to safety in the tree. The next day, the wolves left, leaving one wounded. Keda descended, intending to kill the wolf, but upon seeing the suffering in its eyes, he took pity on it and spared its life. Despite the wolf's growls, Keda carefully held its muzzle and took it to the lake to clean the wound. Hyenas, drawn by the scent of blood, soon forced him to seek shelter in a nearby cave, where he gently laid the wolf down. After noticing the swelling reduce, Keda desperately tried to recall his father's fire-making lessons, but to no avail. The following day, as he delved deeper into the cave, he stumbled upon a welcome sight: tools left behind by his tribe. Relief washed over him. Using nearby herbs, he made a poultice for his own injured foot and decided to name the wolf Alpha. Instead of fleeing, Keda took a chance and offered water, reassuring the wolf that he meant no harm. Later, Keda gathered larvae for food and cleverly used them to clean Alpha's wound. As he regained strength and felt the pangs of hunger, Keda focused on survival, successfully hunting a rabbit with his bare hands. Back in the cave, Alpha eagerly went for the meat, but Keda insisted on patience. After a few attempts, Keda managed to start a fire. Playfully scolding the wolf as it watched hungrily, Keda asserted his leadership, promising to share. This gesture built trust, and the wolf approached, still cautious, but more accepting. With his foot healed, Keda navigated by the stars, finding his way home. He confided in Alpha, likening his longing for his parents to the wolf's yearning for its pack. Though he couldn't promise to return before winter, he resolved to try. At sunrise, armed with a makeshift spear and supplies, Keda asked for his mother's fur cloak back. Reluctantly, Alpha surrendered it. He explained the necessity of rejoining their own kind and attempted to send Alpha away. As Keda journeyed on, Alpha remained in the cave. Yet, as Keda emerged into an open field, a familiar figure trailed behind in the distance. Keda ordered Alpha to leave, but Alpha pressed on, ignoring his shouts. Even when Keda threw a branch at him, Alpha wouldn't back down. Suddenly, Alpha sensed wild boars nearby. They both set aside their argument, and Alpha lunged at the beasts, sending them charging at Keda. Keda fumbled his spear and the boar escaped. Alpha stared at Keda intently, as if questioning his leadership. Keda stammered an excuse, swearing he'd slipped and wasn't afraid. Now, realizing Alpha's hunting prowess, Keda grudgingly accepted his presence. They ventured deeper into the damp forest. There, Keda stumbled upon a way to call Alpha with whistles. That night, huddled by the fire for warmth, their bond grew stronger. Soon, they were hunting as a team. Although Keda was inexperienced, Alpha always secured the first prey after Keda's initial failures with the spear. Even so, Keda played his part by cooking the meat, and whenever Alpha tried to snatch a bite early, Keda asserted his authority. At night, Alpha tried to curl up beside Keda, but Keda shooed him away. In the morning, seeing Alpha had patiently waited without harming him, Keda hesitantly stroked him, a gesture of newfound friendship. Then, Keda decided to take a dip in a lake. Alpha, wary of the water, hesitated. Keda, with a playful shove, sent him splashing in. To Keda's surprise, Alpha's instincts took over. As fish darted near the shore, Alpha snatched them with lightning reflexes, dropping them at Keda's feet. In that moment, Keda felt a true kinship with Alpha. As predicted, the first snowfall arrived. But now, Keda's newly honed hunting skills, honed with Alpha's help, proved invaluable. Together, they cornered a boar, and Keda delivered the final blow with newfound confidence. That night, as they feasted in peace, their tranquility was shattered by the arrival of Alpha's old pack, led by a new Alpha. Recognizing them, Alpha approached his leader, who, remembering him, allowed the pack to pass without conflict. Keda understood. He instructed Alpha to return to his pack. With his leader's permission, Alpha rejoined his kind, leaving Keda alone. Keda continued his journey, crossing the mammoth field blanketed in snow. That night, he found refuge in an ice cave, where the fire offered meager comfort against the biting cold. Meanwhile, back in the village, the first thing Tao did upon his return was apologize to Nu, who instantly grasped it concerned Keda's fate. Keda pushed through the biting snowstorm, the icy wind whipping his face. His tattoos confirmed he was headed in the right direction. Suddenly, he spotted a pack of wolves hunting nearby and recognized Alpha. He hurried towards him, unaware he was walking on a frozen lake. The ice cracked and Keda plunged into the frigid water. He struggled to stay afloat. Alpha watched helplessly, unable to break the ice. Keda, with a last burst of strength, used his knife to break the ice and haul himself out. Alpha helped him out and sheltered him from the cold with his body as his clothes dried. With that done, Alpha decided to accompany Keda on his journey. However, Keda was showing signs of a cold that was slowing him down. Suddenly, he spotted a nomad's tent. He entered, only to find the man frozen to death. Keda took the nomad's bow. A fierce storm approached, but Keda and Alpha couldn't stop, as hyenas were chasing them. They ran with all their might until they reached a cave, where they prepared to face the hyenas. However, their presence awakened a saber-toothed tiger, which attacked Keda. Alpha intervened, engaging in a fierce battle. Keda, with a well-aimed arrow, brought down the tiger. Alpha was injured, but alive. Keda tended to his wounds and thanked him for his loyalty, vowing never to abandon him. The storm passed, and they continued on their journey. Keda, despite vomiting blood, didn't give up. Soon, he saw the totem where he had left his mark, a sign they were close. With his last breath, Keda reached his tribe. Tao, his father, recognized him and embraced him with joy. Keda, with tears in his eyes, said he had returned to make Tao proud. Then he pointed to Alpha, asking for help for his faithful friend. Both were taken to the shaman's tent. Upon examining Alpha, the shaman discovered she was female, had recently given birth to pups, and those pups were now part of the tribe. Keda approached Alpha to reassure her, promising that everything would be all right. In time, Alpha fully recovered, and her pups grew alongside the tribe's hunters, becoming their allies. When they reached adulthood, they joined Keda, Tao, and the rest on the next hunt. And so ends the tale of the world's oldest bond, the one between man and wolf.